Hello, I'm Pastor Sherrell. Thank you so much for tuning in. I got a special program today. We're going to be talking about money. Can you believe money? I mean, like we don't talk about it enough. Everybody thinks about money. We got to figure out how to make money. We don't have to figure out how to spend it because there's always somebody wanting it. But you know, but our life is ruled basically by money. And you know, even the meters going on your electricity, you're spending money. There's something going on all the time that you never stop spending money. But the biggest thing and the hardest thing it seems like in this world today is how to get it and what to do with it. And so I have a special guest, Kasandra, with me today that we're going to be talking about money. And you know, we got blessing plans out there. We got different things that say get rich quick. I see it on the news and see it on TV shows and so forth, free money. And everybody's concerned about money. And the casinos are popping up everywhere because somebody wants to get some fast money. But you know, fast money goes fast. And so if you earn your money or figure out a way to change some things, we can see a change in our life. Kasandra, it's so good to have you with us today.
Glad to be here.
And we're going to talk about money and because there's so much that you have tapped into in your lifespan that kind of brings people up to date how to work with what they have.
Yes.
And so, you know, in a kind of an opening here, what in a nutshell, if you can do it, I know you can't do it that fast because it's a 28-30 program, but what would you say to the person out there to help them? Because everybody wants to win the lottery.
Sure.
We got these $1 million deals on the signs and the billboards. That's where our mind goes.
Yes.
But we need to reverse that and bring it back into our court. What can we do?
Yes, yeah. No, and Leah, this is precisely why I do my job. Because it's funny, when people know that I work with money, one of the very first questions is, well, what's your hot tip? Or what do you know? And it's just never that. There's not a pill to lose the 100 pounds, right? There's not a pill to get rich. And people know this, but yet they're still looking for it. It's that sense of, and it really is a spiritual malady. Yeah. It's an issue of, you know, everybody wants this great relationship with God, and I will take it there because but I don't want to do the things I need to do that would help me cultivate that relationship with God, because it is a relationship. Right. So money's the same way. I have to do some things with my money, but people don't want to do it. My health, I have to do certain things with my health, but I don't want to do certain things, but I want to be.
It's just like we need exercise, but we don't want to exercise.
And so it's, while, again, I work in the world of financial services and work with financial products, and we talk about the words such like investments and savings, and we talk about those sorts of things. Don't get me wrong, that's my job. But really, it goes a lot deeper. The people who end up working with me are people who really understand that money, it's just one of God's resources. It's one of His tools.
It's an exchange.
That's it. We need it.
Yeah.
I went into my job because I needed it. I went into this field because I needed this help. I needed to understand, I recognized that I spend more of my day, like all of us, involved in capital activity than anything else. I don't spend this much time with God. I don't spend this much time with my spouse. I don't spend this much time with my kids. I don't spend this much time volunteering. I spend my day engaged in capital activities, how to get more, how to spend it better, you know. Yes. And so I have to understand it. I have to control it. And the Lord tells us, there's a passage where He says, and people misinterpret this, and I'll be curious to see what you think on this. The passage that says you cannot serve two masters. Right. It goes on, but you can put a period right there. And the whole Bible's done, right? Yeah. We're done. Bible's done. You don't need any more Bible teaching, right?
But we got to go in the other part.
The rest of it goes on and says, you will either serve me or money. And so people hear that, and then there's this disdain for money. There's this weird relationship that exists, and I'm going to speak to the church. There's this weird relationship that exists in the church, and it exists outside the church too. Yeah. It's like there's this disdain for people with money. We all want their money, but then we're mad that they have it and somehow think they should give it to us. I mean, and then everyone's trying to get it. But the thing is, the Lord tells us, I mean, it is not about...
And the whole world's geared by it, even back to the drug dealers or alcohol or whatever it may be. I was just watching last night, you know, the billions of dollars that's even going through the drugs. It's all about the money. It's not about the drugs. Exactly. It's about the money. Of course, the drugs keep the money coming. Yeah. And so the whole world is geared around money.
And yet people don't know what to do with it. People don't know how to manage it. People are not its master.
Right.
They are mastered by it.
But that's it.
They even if you have, by society standards, enough,
right,
even excess, which a lot of people in North Dallas, we're in Dallas. We're in one of the wealthiest cities in the nation.
It is.
So a lot of people tell me, well, I don't have any money. Yes, you do. I know they do. Because
they've had to say that because everybody's trying to get their money.
Exactly, I guess. But it's this sense of how do you actually manage your money in such a way, and I don't just mean manage like your budget. I mean actually approach your money. So yes, there's some tools, but it's also an approach to what are you doing with the money. Because in my world, I recognized I'm just very fortunate to have some.
Right.
Sometimes I've had little, and sometimes I've had lots. You know, now I'm doing a little bit better, partly because I know some things about it. I know, for one, that I'm just very blessed to have it, that it's not mine. That I don't have to worry about what percentage I'm giving to anybody.
Right.
I just have to actually steward it well.
Right.
Because if I have the blessing to get it,
right,
if it's $1, it's a blessing, it's $1.
That's true.
I need to steward $1 the same way that I steward the $1 million.
Right.
It's just another number of zeros behind that million, right? But you're stewarding it the same way. If you don't know how to steward, the Lord talks about this. If you don't know how to steward, if you can't, handle a little, you know, the parable of the talents.
That's it.
The guy who didn't do anything with it, he gave it to the guy that did the most with it.
And you know, the thing about it is that when we're talking about money right now, it seems like there's a shortage of it in people's lives. And it's not the money, there's money here. There's plenty of money here. So if I just, I'm not giving you a loaded question, but I'm gonna put it like this.
Sure.
If a person that's making $5 an hour, just say roughly $5 an hour, you know, we know that's low on the totem pole, but people, a lot of people we talk to are in that category, to where they're making, you know, not very much money per week, and they're living from payday to payday. Now, if someone's living from payday to payday, they're in their mind, they're thinking, I'm never going to get anywhere like this. And you have a solution for that, I presume.
You know, I do, and really interestingly enough, I do. It's hard. That's and I'm going to speak to the solution this way. If all the resources that you were given were $5 an hour, you still have to treat it the same way that if someone were giving you $500 an hour. It's nicer when you have $500 because food doesn't cost as much, right? But what it means is your lifestyle cannot look like the person with $500 an hour. And everyone seems to think their lifestyle should look like these other folks. Apparently your life's not meant to. And I get a little, this system, this actual practical sort of money management system came to me because I was a single mom living in a home in Carrollton, Texas here, and everything had, I mean, I got divorced. It was the hitting the bottom. I hit the bottom. Everything that I understood from, relationships and money, everything was taken away. I was in my home. I was in my home still. That was not taken away. But job and husband and all the money and everything. And I sat there thinking, wow, I have 2 degrees from Stanford University. I was paid to go to Stanford. I have a bachelor's and master's at Stanford. I'm this really smart person, right? And I'm sitting here in my house.
You're not supposed to be there.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sitting here in my house, and I knew the Lord at the time. I didn't grow up in the faith at all, by any means. And so I was only, this is back in 2008, as a matter of fact, 2007. And I'm sitting in my home, and I'm having a conversation with God because I realized, oh my goodness, I'm going to be one of these double-degreed people that's homeless. I'm going to be at the homeless shelter. They talk about that. That happens, right? It
happens to wealthy people.
And I was doing fine before that. Just, when everything explodes in your face, it was the perfect storm of my life. It was a perfect storm. Everything kind of got taken away. And I'm sitting in my home, and I realized, I'm going to have to sell my home. I'm going to have to foreclose. I'm going to have to foreclose on my home. At the time my mother was living with me, I thought, well, Mom can go to the homeless shelter with me, right? I'll take Mom to the homeless shelter with me. My son,
I was planning it
out because I'm like, okay, my son, he can go to his daddy's. At least he has a father to go to. I'm not going to let him go to the homeless shelter with me, which was honesty. This was an honest conversation I was having. I'm like, I cannot believe I'm going to end up in this situation. How did this happen? And so I was in that point of that $5 an hour person, right? Like, I can't believe this is what it's going to look like. So I did what it takes. I absolutely, truly, and people who know me and know my story know this is true. People thought for a few years that I didn't spend a dime. I did whatever it takes. I did whatever job I could get. because I was having trouble getting jobs. It was one of those times. People have been through this in the world.
Yeah.
You just can't get the right job, right? And no one wants to give you a job because I'm way overqualified for everything, right?
Yeah,
so
that's
I'm like,
a lot of that.
Oh my gosh, right? I had too big of titles, too big of incomes, so I couldn't get the jobs I really wanted.
Right.
And they're not going to give me the barista job, right? You know what I mean? They're just not. So I'm like, what do? I did whatever it took. I absolutely did whatever it took, and I lived bare bones. I did not have to give up my house. You know, again, enough was provided. And I'm telling you what, Lee, by the end of that year, on my tax return, by those numbers, I shouldn't have made it.
Wow.
Based on what it takes to maintain my home and maintain everything that was going, I shouldn't have made it. That's when I'm like, and I already knew God, but I'm like, there is a God. Because the numbers really didn't totally jive.
Right.
But I survived somehow. This is, again, I had just barely started the system personally, but I was committed to the system, which means I had to change a lot of things. So again, there's a long answer, but the person making $5 an hour, I was kind of there. You know, I had to scrimp and save and do whatever it took. And I had people look at me. I have 2 degrees from Stanford. I had people looking at me 3 different times. I can't believe you have 2 degrees from Stanford and this is what you're doing for a living.
Wow.
Talk about swallowing your pride. But you know, the Lord, you know.
But you just got to do what it takes.
You got to do what you got to do.
And see, and by doing something like that, look where it's got you today.
Yeah, life is very different.
It's different. And
life is very different.
You know, I've talked to people that say, well, I'd never do that. I wouldn't dig a ditch. I wouldn't clean restrooms, or I wouldn't, you know, do this or that. You know, in my lifetime, I've done to take care of my family, I would do whatever it took. And so, because you have to pay the bills. Yes. You have to have food on the table, and you got to have gas for the car to get the food for the table and so forth. And so, but in the people that says, and I know they're really waiting, really intense to hear, how can they make a change in their life? And I know you can't do it in this short program, but I believe we can stir up some thought and get some food for thought for people that are needing to get some answers to how they can change their life themselves, because you can't depend on nobody else. You can't depend on, the government can only do so much, or your job can only do so much. What can we do to change our life in the state? If somebody's just making a paycheck from payday to payday, what can they do? I know you can't put it in a nutshell, but.
Well, I mean, they can call me.
Okay.
I'll talk to them.
And you'll give them some money?
No, I'm not going to give them any money. I don't give it. I don't
just play it.
You know, it's honestly, I have literally built my business on people who others wouldn't talk to necessarily, and I shouldn't say that. A lot of the folks I work with have fine incomes and fine salaries and fine businesses.
Now you work with bankers and everything, I'm sure. I mean, people in the high corporate areas, down to the person just barely making a living. And so in working in that area, it all boils back to one thing, and God's given you a pattern in something to help somebody to be able to turn their life around in that.
Well, it boils down to, are they going to, are they going to, first of all, you got to save. I'm amazed, you know, everybody wants to knock it out of the ballpark. Cassandra, well, okay, fine. Even if I had the one thing to knock it out of the ballpark, you have the money to do it? I mean, that's the question I asked them. Because it was in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, Apple, home of Apple. And I used to love when people would say things like, oh gosh, I wish I would have known Apple when they first started. And my question always is, would you have had the money to do anything about it? Most people don't.
No.
I mean, they don't. You know,
they just wish they was there.
And these are families. Now, bear in mind, these are families that are making $100,000, $200,000 a year. They too, believe it or not, are living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. Because it's called Parkinson's Law, and it says expenses rise to meet the level of income. Yeah. You know, I had a young woman that before she finally let me work with her, she was making, I don't know, like $35,000 a year. And she's like, well, I can't save. I'm like, look, you're never going to have, if you don't save some money, you're not going to have any money. I don't know what to do for you if you won't put any money aside. So I told her, and then she got a $10,000 a year increase. Wow. That's a big chunk of change.
It is.
Mind you, she knew how to budget on her 35. Yeah. She knew how to live, and that's not a lot of money. I get it. She wasn't like, you know, going on world vacations. I get it. But what I told her was, I said, please, you just got a $10,000 bump. Don't spend it all. Just enjoy some of it, but can you start saving some with that money? Because again, your lifestyle, you're used to the 35. You already know how to live on 35. Don't get used to living on 45.
Most people take that 35 to 45.
Actually, they take it to 55.
55.
And they only still have 45. So she did it. She took her lifestyle to 45. In fact, she took it to 55. And then she sees me again, you know, because we kind of keep in touch. She hadn't become a client yet. And she's like, and then she gets more money again. She's like, I've got to start doing something now. Because she recognized, oh my God, help me. It's like I'm a drug addict. You know, I can't. And they are. People are drug addicts. They get more and then they just keep spending more. But they're not doing the proper behavior. So people can talk to me and I'll talk to them, but they're not going to like some of the answers because the answers are.
Well, sometimes it's got to be strong answers before we'll pay attention.
Yeah.
And you know, I know there's people out there right now that's still trying to get a grip on what we're talking about here. And you know, if you go to Kasandra's website, you'll be able to get a hold of her through that, and also you'll be able to correspond to figure out how can I change my life. Everybody wants to change their life for the better. I mean, you want it for your children. You want it, you know, in your lifetime, you know, because we're living longer. And as we live longer, we've got to make our money stretch. And so everything in life is about spend. It's about spend. But see, sometimes you got to learn how not to spend. And you got to kind of pull in the reins a little bit and change some things. And you can do it on a small paycheck, and you can do it on a smaller paycheck, but there's ways to do it. And see, the Bible says, my people die because of lack of knowledge. And see, knowledge is wealth. Knowledge is wealth. If you're making $100,000 a year, knowledge is wealth of how to save money out of that $100,000. That's wealth. Or $20,000 a year at a poverty stage. You can still change your way of living in that area, and you have proven that point. And so if somebody contacts you through the website and everything, you can work with folks that kind of bring things together for them and help them to get over some of these hurdles that they're going through.
Absolutely. This really is about, there is a principle called shirt sleeve to shirt sleeve in 3 generations. I've decided I'm going to have to, part of one of my speaking circuit is going to have to be about this shirt sleeve to shirt sleeve in 3 generation, because it's a wealth principle. And what it talks about is you have the first generation, and they start and they're scrimping and saving, you know, and they're working 2 jobs because we want our children to enjoy more. We want to give them a bit of a leg up, right? We don't want them to work in the steel mills or the coal mine, right? So there's this first generation working hard, right? So that the second generation can enjoy more. So the first generation builds it, the second generation enjoys it, and the last generation spends it all. It's that whole Paris Hilton, Kardashian.
The 4th generation is starting over again.
And people are always starting over again. And it's not always so much that maybe these children are morally reprehensible and they're irresponsible with their money. It's the truth that, and I've made this statement before and I'll make it again, the truth that there is more money that flows into you and away from you than you could ever possibly save and invest. Correct?
Yes.
So part of the system, is a mindset. There are people who are saying, you know what, why not me? Why can't I be the person who starts the next Uber generation of children? Why not me? That's what I realized. I'm doing okay, I'm surviving, but if I went to Stanford University, there were 60% of those students who didn't get any financial aid. I was a complete scholarship kid. I got my way paid through. And I looked at these kids and I'm like, what do you know that you're not smarter than me. I'm at the same university you are. What do you know? And it was their families, these generationally wealthy families, and the way they think about money. They weren't, and they're not anybody that you would notice. They're driving their truck.
It's almost like birds of a feather flock together.
Absolutely. So I started listening to a lot of what people talked about, and they talked about generational wealth, money begetting money. But there are systems, and that's part of the things I teach people. So whether it's, again, and the smallest client I have puts $100 a month into the systems, and that's what they, you know, can they put less away? Yeah, I suppose. I guess I just haven't worked with somebody putting less away. You know, so it's not just about they can call and we can have conversations, because it's a conversation, and it's a conversation that lasts a lifetime. I do plan on sticking around. I do plan on being with people.
Well, your hair's still dark, so you'll make it.
There you go. I do have lots more gray in it, but I like my gray. But it's an issue of, I want to work with people that want something more for themselves. I always tell people, trust me, I'm going to get paid. I need to get paid too. I got a mortgage. I got to send a kid to college. There are 7 billion people in this world. Someone's going to work with me. I want to work with somebody who has a vision for their children's children. And even if they don't have kids, because I have a bunch of single people, maybe they have a ministry they support, an animal shelter they care about. These are my clients. I do have clients that are totally single, no children, no nieces, no nephews, but they care about stewarding resources well.
Right. Wow. So in the corporate world, to the world that's just that's getting by, you can prove to them a way that they can change their life. And so if they get a hold, but they can't do it unless they get a hold of you.
Well, I mean,
they don't know. I mean,
they don't.
We're talking right now, and so in this, I want to bring out one point here that I think could be a good point. One time I built a church up in Ohio, and it sprung up so fast. A person made a statement. I don't know if this is going to last or not because the church grew too fast. And see, a lot of times we think that in the world, and sometimes it's a case that if something goes too fast, that it don't have good root.
Yes.
And so, in what you're talking about, it's a slow growth, but it's a sure growth.
Exactly. It's Aesop's Fable, the tortoise and the hare, the turtle and the hare. Who wins the race? The turtle. The
turtle always gets there.
Slow, methodical, patient, boring. It's a turtle.
Rabbit runs, stops, rests, kicks back.
And if you look at the books, the rabbit's always dressed all in his tuxedo, and the turtle's all
just barely getting through it.
But who wins?
Yeah, but he wins.
And it's not a win about in comparison to you.
Right.
I'm not comparing to you. It's not about you. Your life will look different than mine will.
Right.
I have resources I have that God gave me different than you. But the processes apply in either case.
Right.
Because my life is designed, and so it is absolutely slow and steady and methodical.
But it builds.
Absolutely.
It builds. You know, we was talking about something earlier, you know, whenever they begin to build the Tower of Babylon, when they built it, the only reason that God changed their language is because they was working in unity. And when they was working in unity, everybody talked the same language. And see, and when God broke their language up, he said they would have made it to heaven with that tower. And so God had to break their language up so they couldn't understand each other, and then they went off their own routes. So whenever someone gets into this type of a building with you, they have to be in unity with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so if they get in it and stay with it and stick to it, you can change their lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, that's a big word right there.
You know, it's it's funny when you say I can change their lives. I'm just the conduit.
Right.
I am just a messenger. My life's already dramatically altered. My son's life is changed. You know, the son's I'm getting married soon, and it's a very different world for us already, and it will be as long as our children continue.
Wow.
For my clients, it is. Not every client necessarily wants me to go this deep with them. I had someone tell me, Kasandra, you're kind of scary because you make us feel vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because we have to be honest. Because I'm trying to help them grow, and it's more.
And nobody likes to tell you the truth of what they're making.
No, but I got to know this stuff. And it's funny. I had a client yesterday tell me when I said she's going kind of the next phase. You know, she's gone through kind of phase one. Now she's growing, and and she's like, and I said, and I asked the question. So how much do you actually have on hand? She goes, I don't want to tell you. And I go, why? She goes, you're going to take it all away. And I'm like, I don't have to do anything with it. It's your decision.
Yeah.
You know. I'm just going to tell you where you can go, and it was humorous. It was kind of her way of saying, you know, yeah, I know, I got to do the right thing. You know, you're gonna make me eat the broccoli, you know, and I don't make you eat the broccoli. I just tell you, look, broccoli's good, spinach is good. May want to avoid the brownies. Just saying, you know, just saying.
Cut back a little bit.
Yeah, you know, whatever. You can do what you want. So
go to sherbet instead of ice cream.
But it's again, a lot of this is about. You know, the Lord talks about be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Right.
A lot of my job is to teach people what's possible, the truth about how money works.
Yes.
It's their job to enact it.
That's it.
And I can pour my heart out and say, please, I wish you'd do the right thing, but I can't make people do the right thing.
Yes, and you know, and I want to say to our audience out there that you might say, Brother Sherrell, what would this have to do with me? Well, we're living in some different times than I've ever seen in my years, and we're living in times that even money's going to fail in coming in from the government. That they're getting to the end of it. Cities are bankrupting. There's a lot going on, so we got to figure out how can we change our life. How can we change our lifestyle? Because it's going to have to be somehow. We got to start changing our lifestyles. And so as we learn how to do it, you can't do it by yourself. You need a teacher. We're all taught by somebody. We all learn from somebody in some area how to improve our life, and yet not get away from the way we have our lifestyle, but make it where it'll work for us. And if you will get a hold of Kasandra, you'll find out that she has some good answers for you. I mean, what can you lose? When you go on, if it don't fit your way of thinking, just say, hey, I'll go a different direction. But I'm doing this for you folks. I want y'all to be able to do something. You know, we've heard it from every angle. You send me 1,000, God will give you 10,000. Has it worked? You know, in some cases way out on the limb, you'll see it. But the bottom line is God's going to bless you. But God says be a good steward. That's his word. And it's even when the prodigal son went out and he spent everything he had to come back to daddy and start all over again. And so sometimes we just got to get back to the roots and start all over again. And so I want you to go to that website, figure out what works for you. And I know Kasandra will help you a lot. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't have her on the show with me. And I know she'll be a blessing to you. This won't be the last time we talk about this. But we want to get into some things that will help the public, help people turn things around in their life. And this is for you today. And yes, God still blesses, and God will give you a miracle when you need it. God will turn things around. Now, don't forget, and I see our time getting away, if you'd like to have the prayer cloth, just call the number on the screen. We'll rush it to you. It's absolutely free. It's a contact point. We'll believe God together. A lot of people touch the cloth. Cloth has no power, but our faith comes together in agreement. When it does, God does something for you. Till tomorrow at the same time, this is Pastor Lee Sherrell saying, Jesus loves you, and I do too.